from the Bible first, because when we talk about God's creation, we are talking about a future for them as well. We have been tasked to take care of what we have right now so that they can have a future, so that generations from now on can have a presence in this world and the world will not pass away. So hospitality is the oldest form of human virtues, from the cradle to the grave, basically. So we experience some form of welcome. From the warmth of the womb, where we were in our mother's womb, to the warmth of the grave when we die. So we feel a kind of welcome because we're coming into somewhere for the first time or coming back again and again. So our Bible passages that we read, they have some few things in common. They talk about hospitality, talk about humility, about sacrifice, about gift. So many things in common. And when we look at God's creation, we see how deeply rooted those themes are in God's creation. So why do we need to be reminded to be kind to strangers? Why do we feel as Christians we need to be reminded to take care of strangers, to take care of the visitors again and again? The wisdom of hospitality goes deep. It's not just about being nice and welcoming to someone in your midst. There's more than that. Creation confronts us with beauty, and it also confronts us with pain and terror because we don't know what might happen, especially now when we hear from activists telling us about global warming, telling us things about climate change. There are things that sometimes you may not take seriously. And you may wonder why I'm talking about that in church today, but where else can we start? Because it's time we get up as Christians to know that there's something bigger than us going on outside. And if we value God's creation, we have to do our part in that as well. By showing humility through hospitality, we are doing what we are here for, to be stewards and partners of God's family business. So we are the guardian of his creation. He gave us that. He gave us the power over all those things that he created. They are there for our pleasure. The food is there for us to eat. The atmosphere, the seasons changing, they are there for our convenience as well. Time changes, and they are all there for us. Jeremiah testifies about a people that were given so much, but squandered all in pursuit of worthless things. Can everybody hear me from the back? Yeah? Okay, I think I'll put this on just to be... Oh, that's loud. Okay, that's cool. Okay, so Jeremiah testifies about a people that were given so much, but they wasted everything, pursuing things that were worthless. They left the important things and went pursuing things that were not important. This passage speaks of God's protecting Israel during their wandering in the desert and how they forgot God and put their trust in cracked cisterns that can hold no water. If you think about this, a cistern that can hold no water. When we were back, when we were young growing up in Nigeria, one of the punishments then was to fetch water with a basket. Do you know how a basket is? Woven. So imagine it's woven, it's got holes in it. So imagine going to the tap to fetch water with that, to fill up a container. How is that possible? It's not. So you move from one place to the other and it's just useless. It's vain. There's no point doing that. So that is like the Israelites. They're wasting their time, leaving what was important, leaving a tangible thing for some intangible effort. Indeed, Jeremiah encounters the injured astonishment of God at the inhospitable nature of his people. These people were given so much, but they remained inhospitable, not only to the messenger, Jeremiah, to the word of God, to even the people they encountered. They became inhospitable. And from his testimony, from his prophecy, it shows God's disappointment, God's shock that the people, Jacob's family, could turn against him like that. They put so much energy into projects that had no future. The people of Israel were entrusted with the riches of the land, and yet they outrightly rejected that privilege by defiling the land that God gave them. So look at the beauty of creation. Think about the video we saw at the beginning of the church, how beautiful nature is. Look at the flowers, look at the flora, look at, look at the coral reef. I was looking through the internet yesterday, looking at pictures, and it's just amazing how many natural colors, vibrant, rich colors that God has given to us for our pleasure. He's given all this, but what are we doing? Are we any different from the Israelites? Are we really taking care of what God has given us? Are we also playing deaf and dumb to the growing warnings of climate change? Are we heeding the warnings that we hear from the news, from activists? There's a girl, a teenage girl that's sailing, she sailed from Europe to America recently, I think during the week. She's an activist. She goes about talking. In fact, she missed her school leaving exams just so that because she feels the problem of climate change is just over. It's just too much, more than her sitting the exam. And people are listening to her, even though it might be a bit late. We wouldn't be the first life form to wipe ourselves out. Think about these dinosaurs. Are they still here today? Wiped out. So if it can happen to them, it could happen to us. The only difference is we can think and we can avert this. We can make a change if we want to. But unfortunately, all path is leading towards the fact that we're doing this intentionally. We know what we're doing is wrong. What we're doing it, we take so many things for granted, and we're just doing it. For instance, things like using reusable plastic bags, we still go to the shops. They put a tax on plastic bags, but we still go to the shops, we pay the 10p, and we get more bags. And if you know how long it takes, sometimes those plastics do not even degrade. They don't get, for centuries. They're still there. They are in the water that we drink. They are in the flora, in the water. The fishes, you cut the fish open now, you see traces of plastic in them. These are God's creation. And we're slowly, through our own acts, through our selfishness, we are making sure there's no future for generations to come. Scientific evidence for warming of the climate system is indisputable. The evidence for rapid climate change is compelling. So I'll list them. So there's global temperature rise, warming oceans, shrinking ice sheets, glacier retreats, decreased snow cover, and the sea level rise. If you look around now, you feel, we're having warmth in the summer. It's a lot warmer now. We might think we like the bit of the warmth, but it's not a good thing, because that's not how it should be. Slowly and slowly, we are changing geography. We're changing the way the world is supposed to be from what we do. So we've known for decades that this time will come. You hear so many things in the news. Sometimes there could be doomsday prophecies that we think, someone said, if we continue to live this way, in the next 25 years, there will be no, they mentioned the states in the Pacific, which is probably true, because the way sea is eroding land is just amazing. See tsunamis, earthquakes all over in places that never experienced them before. That is not because they are so far away, does not mean we can't, that we are not affected by that. So you must have heard during some news during the week about the fire in Amazon in Brazil. That is so real. That is happening right now. And that fire is said to have been caused by human intervention. The Amazon is in fact, some people refer to it as the lung of the world, because 20% of the oxygen that we need actually comes from there. So we can't say we're not affected by that, but by what is happening there. Brazil has seen more than 80,000 fires this year, and this is an increase of 85% from last year. Fire can be caused by lightning strikes, so we say it's an act of God. But when the fire is set by human beings just to clear the ground for famine, and then it grows and grows and grows, then we know there's a problem. It's human, it's caused by a human being. And then when we know that the government that has the power to do something about it, refuse to do something about it for their own selfish reason, we see how power struggles with power, how the people that are supposed to be making decisions for us are letting us down for their own selfish reasons. The Amazon rainforest has been fire resistant for much of its history because of the natural moisture and humidity that it has. God made it that way. How have we shown hospitality to those entrusted to us? It seems the world is slow to understand the implication of an incident of this magnitude because we are full of debate. I was talking to some of my colleagues during the week who were discussing this issue in Amazon, and we were wondering why the president of Brazil refused to take the $22 million aid that was promised, that was offered by the G7 country. For some reason, he said, someone from his government said, oh, we don't want to be another colony. We don't want to be recolonized by these powerful nations. But at the depth of everything, in the middle of everything, is him saying that the France has to apologize to him for what France had said, alleged about him causing the fire or supporting the people that caused the fire. Which, when you look at it, is bringing personal feelings into the faith of the world. These powerful nations, these people are bringing their own ego, their own pride. Lacks the humility that we're talking about. It lacks the hospitality that we're talking about. So much so that churches are involved in this movement now for him to accept, take this. Let everybody help the Amazon. Because whatever affects them thousands of miles away affects us here. And that is just the beginning. If we see this now happening, it is the beginning. In our gospel reading, we hear a parable about generosity to the outsider and the stranger. So generosity is not just looking after our own, it takes more than that, than looking for our own, because it's expected of us to be generous to them. It includes looking after the people living outside of the margin. It includes victims of climate injustice and food insecurity. It includes the helpless, those that can't help themselves, those that have no voice. It includes spending our time and resources to help them. It includes giving back. It includes helping the stranger. So you see how all our readings are kind of connected, because when you're helping a stranger, you don't know if you're helping an angel. And there's an opportunity to pay back some of your own good fortune. No matter what situation we have, there's something we have that is better than the next person. If we don't have money, we have time. If we don't have those, we have our health. There's always something that we have that we can give back to someone. And if we don't have any other thing, we have our heart. We have our lifestyle that we can change. And every little helps, every little matters. I was looking at the carbon footprint calculator, and it shows that if we as much as reduce our intake of beef, and I know as Africans mainly, we love our beef, we love our meat, all those orishi, the big fatty part of the fish, yeah, we love it. We love our meat. We want a plate full of whatever doughy stuff we eat, and then the huge meat beside it. And then the English people too, you like your 3 veggies and the meat beside it. If we give that up, rather than having one main dinner a day, reduce our beef intake to maybe during the weekend, that makes a significant change. When someone started talking to me about giving up meat, beef, I was like, what has that got to do with climate change? But there's a lot it's got to do. Changing the back. I see my sister smiling there. You're saying that that's impossible. Think about it. There's always chicken. If you go online to the BBC website, you'll see a calculator that calculates your oxygen, your carbon footprint. And you see that the time it takes the driver to bring the food from wherever it's coming, on the lorry, on the tractor, wherever, and the smoke that is being ingested into the atmosphere, all that costs something. And then it's just for that table, that piece of meat on our table. The same thing with coffee. The same with, if you look at that, that will give you a perspective to how much we are doing to the environment. And I'm very passionate about this, standing up here, talking to you about this today, because I know that this is not a fluke, it's not going to go away. There's going to be more to talk about if we continue living this way. And each one of us can make a difference if we adjust just a little bit from what we do in our lives. So through our gospel reading, we are called to invite not just the insider. Jesus said it. Not just the people that you know would thank you, people that you know would pay you back in life fashion, but invite those that you don't know, people that will not pay you back in any way. But we as humans, we try to reciprocate. For instance, if someone gives you a present, you write it down so that you can give them back the same present, something of similar value when it's their turn. We do things like when we invite people to our parties, we always invite the people that are within our class. I'm not holier than thou. I'm not going to say I'm the one person that will go to the street and get all the homeless people to come to my party. I don't do that. I am the same. But that doesn't mean it's the right way. This is not what Jesus is telling us. If you can do all that, you should be able to ask people that you don't know, strangers. Be kind to strangers. Do something expected or unexpected, something out of the ordinary to strangers. Walk away and not expect anybody to thank you. That is what Jesus is telling us. It says at the end of the passage that we will be repaid at the resurrection of the righteous. Perhaps if we do this, if we contribute to the resurrection of our planet, we'll be repaid in great, because we'll know that when we live here, there's a life for our generations to come. So we segue lastly into our Hebrews reading. And two words echo through from the beginning to the end of the reading. So those two words are angels and sacrifice. I've kind of mentioned them as I was going. So when we show hospitality to strangers, part of that hospitality is an opening, not only of our home, but of our heart. When we show that hospitality, we are opening our heart and our mind. We are leaving, our own comfort zone to jumping outside of that comfort zone. This reminds me of when we talk about opening our hearts to the message that these messengers bring, so the angels, what they bring, it kind of reminds me of when Al Gore, the former vice president of America, started his documentary on An Inconvenient Truth. He was educating people about global warming. And at that time, people were a bit critical about it. They didn't really take to it until much later. And this came after a film called The Day After Tomorrow. I saw that and I was scared, looking at how things roll over. And one is fiction, one is fact. But even the fiction has been proven to be 80% correct. Scientists have proven it. So those are the angels that God has sent to talk to us. But are we really listening to them? We hear the voices of activists telling us, warning us about the danger of the lifestyle that we live in, that this is not sustainable. We could recycle more, we could be more thrifty in the way we spend, waste less. But are we really listening to these messengers? It should be no surprise that Jesus locates holiness in hospitality. Hospitality also belongs with humility. No one only gives, everyone also receives. From the air we breathe, gifted by the work of the trees, to the water of life that we share as it becomes part of our bodies, then we pass on. A gift from the dawn of the universe, from the eternal hospitality of God the Creator. When He made the world, He gave it as a gift. In all its totality, He gave it as a gift to us. Our humanity is developed and rooted in our care for the outsider, the elderly and the infirm. Selfishness and hatred of foreigners, by contrast, is toxic and self-defeating, a false friend of our species. The vision of Jeremiah rightly associates it with false and damaging gods and idols. And I'd like us to reflect upon that carefully, even in the coming week, and find ways that we can make a difference. You can go online, you'll get much information about what you can do as an individual, even as a church, as a family, to see what we can do to reduce our own carbon footprints. Let us pray. God, you make and welcome all living things. Show us the joy of finding our place in the party of your creation. Help us to live thankfully, giving and getting, caring and loving all creatures bright and beautiful. And when we're together, safe as a church family, show us how to treat every visitor as angels, just in case. Amen.